Good morning, everybody. Is it working? Yes. Wonderful. See everybody here this morning. Just starting off by handing out a little gift. Don't open it. You're not allowed to open it, by the way. You've just got to hang on to it. We'll talk about that later. But it's great to be here. And it's a long time since I've been up here, so I don't really know what I'm doing. And we'll see how we go. I've changed the topic, by the way, of the sermon. You might have noticed that, to the B, the E and the Y. And Fee's just done all that explaining for me, which is fantastic, because she's just told you what the B and the E are, which is the bless and the eat, and then why. Why do we bother? And I'm going to put that down for 2 seconds because it's very hot up here. I can get much more excitable about what we're talking about this morning if I don't have my jumper on, which is great. So I want you to, just as soon as you get your gift, I want you to stand up for a moment and say hello to somebody next to you. Not only that, I want you to swap gifts. The first thing I want you to do is stand up, and you've all been given a gift in an envelope and you're not allowed to open it, but I want you to share your gift with somebody else. That's the first thing that we're going to do this morning. So find somebody to share your gift with, and I hope we've got enough. And when all take a seat, and we're how many short? What are we? We might be short a few, I'm sorry. Which is great, because I did how many I thought there would be here this morning, and we might be short a few, which is fantastic. It's great to have everybody here this morning. So this morning, and the topic that we're talking about is the B, the E, and the Y, which is the bless, the eat, and why would we bother with those things. And Fee's just done my introduction to my sermon with her little game, which is fantastic, because you all know about Surprise the World. You all know what the five things are. And I meant to be changing slides as I go along here. We've done the gift, so we've already done that, and we're up to that slide already. So the B, the E, and the Y. So the B and the E, as you come from the bells, which is the acronym from the Surprise the World. And you all know that B stands for bless. And so the habit that we're looking at today, and I've been given the task of dealing with 2 habits in one sermon. So that's really tough. So you're probably going to be here for a long time. But let's not. But the bless, the B is for bless people this week, one of whom is not a member of your church. And the E is for eat, with 3 people this week, at least one of whom is not a Christian. So that's the challenge that Michael Ross gives out to us. Certain by now, listening to me, beginning to wonder what might be in your envelopes. So let's go ahead and open them, and let's see what's in your envelope. And hopefully it's a little surprise. Surprise, because the reason it's a surprise is when you come to church, you usually give money, but today we've given money to you. We've given everybody $10, which is great, isn't it? And you might be asking, how did I manage to get the treasurer of a church to give money back to the people? Okay? But Tony's great, and he kind of got on board with this. So it's strange. But let's hang on to that $10 because we want to come back to it at the end, because that's part of the why. But let's first deal with the B and the E. So today is all about being practical. So that's probably why I'm up here, because I'm not very good at exegesis and those things. So, and Fee's also just done my bit on what I was going to talk about, blessing. To bless is to strengthen one's arm, as Fee talked about. And it's to do something. To bless somebody is to do something for somebody else that makes them stronger. It makes them more capable of living and challenging, living in the world that has so many challenges to them. As quoted in the book, Mark Twain said that he could live for 3 months on a good compliment. So to bless is to help somebody, to strengthen somebody for the future as they face the challenges of life. That's why we bless. Michael Frost challenges us with 3 ways that we can bless. So we have acts of kindness, we have gifts, and we have words of encouragement. So I just want you to park those 3 thoughts for a minute. Now, I thought it was a lot of fun 2 weeks ago when Peter played Who Am I? So we've just parked that thought about acts of kindness, gifts and words of encouragement for the moment. But I thought we might play Who Am I again, because it seemed so much fun, and we'll see how good. So this person in the Who Am I was born in 1944 in Croydon, England. Okay, this person graduated from the College of Music in London, specialising in the oboe. At 22 years old, she felt she was called to mission work. She was unable to find any support from any missionary societies. They told her she was too young, she was single, she had no relevant training, and basically that they didn't want her. On the advice of her minister, who was Richard Thompson at the time, she bought a ticket on a boat that stopped at as many ports as she could possibly find. So the boat she picked on stopped at the most places, and it terminated in Hong Kong. She left England in 1966 on a one-way ticket to Hong Kong, arriving with only £10 in her pocket. She found work as a primary school teacher just outside the walled city of Hong Kong, which at the time was the world's largest opium producing centre. Her mission work has been characterised by simple acts of kindness, such as giving people who were lying around the streets drinks of water, small containers of rice, helping people find schooling. In 1981, she started the St. Stephen's Society, which is now recognised as one of the most successful drug rehabilitation programs in the world. And her 2 major works are Chasing the Dragon and Cracking the Wall. Jackie Pullinger, oh yes, and Carly up the back, Jackie Pullinger. So this person is, of course, Jackie Pullinger, who is now, that's Who Am I? And there should be, does that come up with Jackie Pullinger? Yep, part of it. Oh, I've lost the bottom half of what I had written there somehow. Okay, so this person is Jackie Pullinger. And if Jackie Pullinger is still alive, she's now 80 years of age and is still living in Hong Kong. If you have a look on YouTube, you'll find that she's just put up a little 5-minute thing for Pentecost Sunday, last Sunday. And it's a good thing to go and have a look at her and the enthusiasm that she still has for the gospel. Part of Corrie and my life, so I'm going to divert a little bit, part of Corrie and my life as a couple is that we've always been very intentional in attending with our children, especially when they were at home at least, one Christian conference every year. We've always made a point to do that. And what we attended was not based on denomination, but what we could fit into our calendar and who was speaking and whether we could afford to go. In 2002, at a time when I actually, within myself, really felt that I'd lost my inner joy of the gospel and my faith, we went to the Tabor Bible College conference at which Jackie Pullinger was speaking. So that's how these 2 things connect. It was being held in a warehouse in Western Sydney because that was the only place that they were able to find somewhere to hold it. It had no air conditioning. The Blue Mountains were on fire at the time. It was over 30 degrees, and about half the people that had booked in for that conference didn't bother to attend because of the situation. We attended, however, with our children, and I had the privilege of hearing this remarkable woman speak on the parable of the Good Samaritan. I remember little of the hardship, the effort of getting to that conference, but I do remember the impact that this most remarkable woman had on me. It would be, for me, one of the few sermons that I have ever remembered. I am terrible at remembering sermons. And most of the time God has spoken to me, for me, is been when I'm alone. God speaks to me when I'm alone or in the garden. All my life, all my Christian life, I had understood. Which slide are we up to? Oh yeah, there's a picture of Jackie on the that I found. Do you know what this is? A VHS. For those that are under 20, you probably don't even recognise it. But I found that in the garage. I was looking for Jackie's sermon on the Good Samaritan, but I couldn't find it. But this is at the conference, and this is actually this is a picture that I took of our TV with Jackie on it. And this is actually her giving her testimony. So if anybody would like to hear Jackie Pullinger's testimony, as she gave it in 2002, it's on that VHS. As long as you've got a VHS player, of course. And we still do, okay? So that's great. So all my Christian life I'd understood that we should do kind things to people. All my Christian walk I'd understood that the parable of the Good Samaritan was about loving our enemies and doing those good for those that hate us. But I'd never put it into the real context of who is our neighbour. It is actually everybody that we meet on the day-to-day life that we're on. The Good Samaritan did not go looking for somebody to help. He was on his way from Jericho. He was just doing what he did every day, what he had planned to do. He just came across this person that had been injured. The emphasis of her talk was about this, acts of kindness on a daily basis, the same as Michael Frost, that we cannot outsource these acts of kindness. We cannot give these acts of kindness to anybody else, because only we are going to meet the people that we are going to meet each day that we live our lives. The people you meet are different from the people that I meet, and only you can bless them with acts of kindness, because I'm not there to be able to do it. When we bless somebody, the other thing was that when we bless somebody, just like the Samaritan, firstly, it needs to be that our heart goes out to that person. And if you read that scripture, it talks about the Samaritan's heart going out to the person. And then these acts of kindness are with our blanket, our bandages, our wine, our oil, on our time, and with our donkey. Well, maybe not the donkey bit, but the idea still goes on. Jackie Pullinger's work in the walled city in Hong Kong was totally grown out of the principle of doing micro, small, simple acts of kindness. And from that she managed to challenge the very triads that were controlled the walled city in Hong Kong at that time. The thing about blessing people is it always has a way of coming back and going around and having much greater impact. On Monday I was going down to Tamworth to pick up some mulch. The owner of the mulch then rang me up and said, "Can you bring something down from Armadale?" So I said, "Yeah, I can for you." So we picked it up and we took it down. When I got there, he was so grateful. He had a trailer full of a whole lot of mulch, about twice as much as I needed, and then he wouldn't let me pay for it. So now I've come home with a whole lot of mulch, and I was able to put some to feed, and if anybody else needs some mulch, I've got a few spare bales in the backyard. So when we blessed, I was able to bless him, he blessed me back, and now I can bless somebody else. So blessing strengthens our arm and gives us that strength, makes our lives easier. In about 10 days, this topic in Tuesday Life Church, and it was so exciting. I was blessed. I was so excited, and Carl week and listed the 3 people that she had been able to bless since Tuesday night. Wasn't that great? That really bless me. So, what's Michael Frost? Let's see if I can find it. Yep. Bless 3 people this week, one of whom is a member of your church. That is the challenge. Sorry? Who is not a member of your church. Let's get it right. Bless 3 people this week, one of whom is not a member of your church. It's great. So let's move on. The E habit. The E habit. The E habit is eat with 3 people this week, at least one of whom is not a Christian. And I like this bit out of the book. The Son of Man came. I thought this was really interesting, and so I'm going to read a bit out of the Surprise the World. There are 3 ways in the New Testament completes that sentence, and while the first 2 are well known, the third is somewhat surprising. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. The Son of Man came to seek and save the lost, in Luke. And the Son of Man came eating and drinking, Luke 7:34. Yep, eating and drinking. That's why he was called a glutton and a drunkard by those that despise him. You see, the first 2 passages tell us what Jesus came to achieve, but the third tells us the manner in which he did it. End of quote. He did it around the table. He did it around the table, eating and sharing. One of the ways that we can surprise the world is how we use our kitchen table. Have you ever thought of that? Let's make something really clear here. When we talk about eating in this context of the world, this habit is about eating together. It's not about just having dinner parties or anything like that. It's anything from a dinner party to sandwiches in the park to a cup of coffee at Macca's. All of those things are considered eating together. And I agree with Michael Frost that the power of this habit in our society has the ability to be transformational. The table in our society is breaking down. We do evening meal with the TV on and therefore do not share. Or we have only half the family at home as somebody's off to work or they have other obligations. We eat and run or we live alone and eat alone. I remember this is one of those that I remember from Darwin. I remember an anaesthetist friend of mine who was recently married told me one day when in theatre that he'd been really busy this particular day and he got home at about 9 o'clock at night and he walks in and his wife gives him a big huddle and says, "Oh, honey, you've had a bad day." And he says, "Yeah, it's been hard." And she says, "Oh, your dinner's in the oven." So he goes over to the oven and the oven's on 150 degrees and he opens it up and there's a salad in there. She was making the point that she did not like eating alone. Okay. In fact, the table can be one of the loneliest places of all when you're eating alone. We have a mantra in today's world of independence: just do you. Just do your own thing. So many people are lonely. Many sociologists tell us that the reason that the human race has been so successful is because of our ability to band together and to together. And they're probably suggesting that this is actually the first generation in human history that is beginning to deband and dissect and separating. All kind of connections, but lonely. I'm picking on Carly again this morning, but Carly on Sunday night, who is probably one of the most connected people I know, if I send Carly a text, I've got to reply before I even put my phone down. I mean, it's like really connected. Yet on Tuesday night, she said to us, she always eats alone every day at lunchtime. And at that time of day, for some adult conversation. It is a lonely place for her. Table to be a place where we connect. The table's also a great equalizer, as we read in Michael Frost's book. Where am I up to? The place of connection. That's where we're up to. Better get the right slide. There we go. The place of an equalizer. When I was working my business, if I needed to praise a staff member, I would try and consciously do that in a staff meeting in front of everybody. But if I needed to discipline a staff member, I would nearly always take them to lunch. Why would I do that? Because the table helped to equalise the relationship between us. I was not just a grumpy old boss on the other side of the desk in the office, but I was now a person sitting on the other side of the table. Conversation was much more open and flowed so much more easily when we were sitting at and eating at a table. The table equalised the relationship. The habit that we are encouraged to adopt here is eat 3 people this week, at least one of whom is not a Christian. What was that? Oh, eat 3 people. Yeah, no. Eat with 3 people this week, at least one of whom is a Christian. At least you're all listening. That's great. I'm encouraged. That's fantastic. Remember, another thought I had here, that you probably, if you're a little bit legalistic, you could probably count morning tea here as one of those occasions, because you really do sit and eat with people, and that's why morning tea is actually such an important event in the life of the church. So that's points. That's all of those points. So the next point is, of course, whoops, why doesn't that work? No, doesn't want to go. Okay. Oh, the why. There it goes. Righto. The why. Point 3 of the sermon. We've had the B, the E, and the why. So why would we bother? I don't know whether that's ever crossed your mind. Why would we bother? Why would we bother? Why, as a church members, did we instruct the leadership of this church to spend time in 2024 studying this book? This is because we desire as a church to be a more intentionally missional church, and that will be a long journey getting to that place. However, this book is a simple introduction for us to start that journey. And why would we want to do that? Why would we want to go on this journey? We would want to go on this journey because we believe in heaven and we believe in hell. And if we do that, then lost souls matter. Why would we be missional? Why not leave it all just to God? And that's because the scriptures teach us that the church has been entrusted with the gospel. God's plan for the gospel, and the spread of the gospel is the church. And then he has given gifts to us in the body of Christ to share that gospel. This is the why of why we should be missional. Why should we as individuals bother with the B and the E? This is because as individuals we desire to be part of the obedient Church of Christ and intentionally missional in our outlook. And for those, of me included, who have not an evangelistic bone in their body, the gift or any gift of evangelism, I believe this book provides a good framework where we can start and share the gospel in a culturally sensitive way. The other why, of course, that's the why we would do it. The other why is, why don't we do it? Let's use eating as a bit of an example. What are some of the barriers? Let me just read that again because I'm mucking that. What are some barriers to us more often? Why don't we get together more often and eat together? That's really the question. Some of us feel that we're like a really bad cook, and we don't want people in the house. Oh, and all I've got, I don't know what's wrong with. I've mucked up my. All I'm getting is my little picture, but that's a picture of Mr. Bean with a turkey on his head, because we may feel that that's how we feel might happen to us if we try and cook, or maybe we think we're going to get photographed with that person and end up on social media. You laugh at that. When I used to take one of my staff out to dinner, or sometimes I would go out with another woman who was, a professional person or something like that, there were lots of people that felt it was their responsibility to tell Corrie that I had been seen eating alone with a woman. These are really real. Real things as to why we might not do it. Cost. It can be expensive to eat out, so just limit your encounters to coffee or a homemade sandwich in the park or some other simple thing. The big one for me with eating is it takes time. And I'm one of those people that time seems to be short. But think about how we can fit it into our lives. Be optimistic. On Wednesday week we had an electrician at home doing some work, and so I invited him in for a quick cuppa. He even brought his own lunch with him, but I made the cup of tea, so it cost me one tea bag, and that turned into a meaningful conversation of well over an hour. The thing that frightens me the most, especially if I'm by myself, is that I'm going to run out of things to say. Find common ground when you talk with people. You know, this isn't a battleground, it's a place where we can connect. Try to teach yourself to ask questions. Train yourself in this area. You know, I'm reliably informed that in the gospel, Jesus asked 307 questions. Was asked 183 questions, to which he only ever directly answered 8 of them. It's pretty amazing. So maybe that's a skill to think about. So in each of your envelopes, you've now received a gift. This gift is a from the church, with as you would like. You can do whatever you like with it. Our prayer is, however, that this gift would be a symbol of the partnership between this church and you. And that as you, as part of our congregation, would each individually be inspired to be missional in this way, as discussed in Surprise the World. The problem with when you're given a gift is that you have to do something with it. When somebody gives you something, you have to do something with it. You've got to put it in the mantelpiece. You've got to re-gift it. You know, that's what the garage sale's for. So you have to now make a decision. What am I going to do with this gift that I've been given? You can take it and give it to somebody else as a gift. It's quite legitimate. You can bless somebody, as talked about earlier, by giving that gift. You can take that $10 and you can buy somebody a cup of coffee. You might need to add a little bit. I think they're about $6 each. But the principle's there. You can take it and buy somebody a coffee and eat. You can take it and you can blue tack it to your bathroom mirror. So when you're cleaning your teeth every day, of these two, and each day you offer prayer to the Lord, asking Him to open your eyes to the opportunistic opportunities to practice today. You can put it in your purse and your wallet, and you can add it to consolidated revenue, and nobody will mind. Or anything else you might like to do with it. It's your choice. But I would ask you to think carefully about what you do with that $10 this morning. It's only symbolic, I know, but I would ask you to think about it. But if you're in agreement with Michael Frost and you wish to be more missional, but yet you feel a hesitancy in your heart about being more missional, let me direct you to the final reading of this morning. And and this is from the Message. And I'd love to do something that people like Peter would probably have a problem with. I would love to take verse 6 from the NIV and verse 7 from the Message. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay? So verse 6 from the NIV says, "For this reason I remind you to fan the flame, the gift of God." If you're feeling a hesitancy about this and you're not feeling comfortable and you don't have that fire in your belly to want to go and share the gospel, then I encourage you to start and fan the flame. Peter talked about going up to Men of Glen. I know when I went to Jackie Pullinger years ago, she really helped me to reignite the flame that was in my heart for the gospel. And then from the Message, in verse 7, it says, God doesn't want us to be shy with his gifts. I like this because I kind of understand it better than the other. But bold, loving, and sensible. So guys, you've got to use your brains. You've got to be sensible about how we go about this. And Michael Frost in his book goes on about that a lot. Bottom line here is this is all up to us. It's all out there. We've all read the book. Are we going to go and do it? It's up to us. So put yourself in a place where God can speak to you. And that's kind of what it's about. Or if God has given you some area, get training in it. For we are the ones who have the individual responsibility to keep ourselves, the gospel ablaze within ourselves. It's our personal responsibility. When Corrie and I went and heard Jackie Pullinger, that was a period in my life when I had to make some conscious decisions to fan the smouldering fire within me. And he chose in his grace to speak to my heart at that event. Conscious, deliberate, thought about decision to put myself in a place where God could speak his to me. And this morning, perhaps there's some of us that are a bit far away from God. Or maybe your relationship with God's not like it should be. And your heart maybe is not quite ablaze with the gospel the way it used to be. Or you would like prayer that the Lord would help you with these habits. And you find these habits a challenge and you would like help from the Spirit of God to help you go out and do this. May I respectfully suggest that you stay for a few moments after the service, and Peter and Sarah will be out the front here to pray with you. I would like to thank you for listening to me this morning. May you not be shy with the gifts, but be bold, loving, and sensible. Thanks, everybody.